morning, ladies and gentlemen. John Belkowitz and
Whitney Belkowitz
from Intelligent Concrete, where we specialize in concrete, making concrete do the impossible. I just got back from an awesome trip with one of our clients in San Diego. Go concrete, beat asphalt. Yep. Learned some amazing things, got to talk to some cool people, and had probably the worst flight I think I've had in a long time. I have not been on a plane that shook that much since I was in Saudi Arabia.
Those little bitty ones.
It was horrible.
Those are just the worst.
And I felt like absolute poop last night. And I got home. My kids were asleep, so I was a little sad. I want to say, what was time? Was it 11? It was close.
Totally. Yeah, close to 11.
And just didn't feel well. And I got a present from Judy Taylor. And it just was the most awesome thing in the world.
Cool. And Judy Taylor is like a super cool lady. So the fact that
she's all right, yeah.
The fact that she sent you a
book.
I mean, you're like super special.
Oh, sure.
But I'm just saying that she said something to you that just was very neat. And it's a cool looking book.
Right.
So.
What does it say? It's concrete.
Architecture and design inspirational projects worldwide.
I cannot wait. I've already cracked it open. If you haven't received this book, and if you're not a member of CPI, you need to check it out, and you need to become a member. They have an amazing magazine. Judy Taylor is seriously one of the top 10 rock stars in the concrete industry. Oh, yeah, she made the list.
She made the list.
No, totally. She's like number 5 or 6. You didn't know that?
I did not know.
Yeah,
when did you redo your list?
Like 2 months ago.
You read it. How often do you do it? Once a year?
No. I do it twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Do you have a set date?
No, it's
just
whenever
when
I
the
feel
wind
it. It's
blows
like,
in the
you know what it's like.
in the right direction.
When we say like, oh, it's time to watch Lord of the Rings marathon.
Our yearly.
Although
it's not always yearly. Sometimes it's more frequent. Sometimes it's less.
Right.
Harry Potter. You know, we have
right,
all of
HP,
our.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. Like I have this. There's a sense in the wind. I have a feeling in my belly or my chest that it's time to redo the top 10 rock stars list. So amazing book. I'm pretty excited to dive into it. I've already to some degree scanned it, not really perused it.
Is that concrete?
Dress. It's called the carbon dress, made from carbon concrete.
Pardon me.
Yeah. Okay, so awesome. Thank you, Judy. You are an awesome, awesome lady. So what we're going to be talking about today is recycled concrete aggregate. Whitney spent a whole bunch of time. Hey, David.
Hey, David.
Great looking shirt, man.
I know, right? You guys didn't coordinate today.
We didn't coordinate today. Well, I was on
They usually are wearing the same colored shirt. It just kind of, the stars align.
Which polar fleece did you bring in today, David?
No polar fleece.
What? I wore my red one knowing you would wear it today. So, I was flying into Utah as part of the, what's the name of that?
Salt Lake International.
Salt Lake International. And there's something that I saw that I also saw that we see at Denver International Airport, which is all this waste pavement sitting on the side of the runway. And I mean, the folks at Salt Lake were already crushing it up, throwing it into piles, and it looked like there was no graders, there was no sieves. So it looked like they were using it for crushed concrete aggregate. Whitney, do you want to talk about?
Oh, just the road. Yeah, a lot of people do that. More and more DOTs are requiring some certain portion of road base to just be the CCA. And one of the great things with that is you don't have to grade it, you don't have to wash it, because there's an expense, there's time, all of these other kind of complications that arise when you start doing that. But with that CCA, you can't actually put it in a concrete mix. It's too dirty. It's not going to stick, and you don't have a specific gradation like you need with your aggregate. So,
what's the alternative to that? Where do you go from CCA to RCA?
To RCA, you have to clean it, so you have to get a lot of those fines off. If the fines are on there, it's going to have a really hard time kind of sticking with that cement matrix. And then also, like I said, the grading, you've got to get it to a specific size that you've done testing on and that the mix can accommodate. So
I mean, basically you've got to treat the CCA like a virgin aggregate,
right? Exactly.
And go through the same standard operating
process.
procedures. Yeah. So what we've been doing during Whitney's baccalaureate, she did a project on recycled concrete aggregate with one of the ready-mix suppliers out here who got us the material. And what we were looking at is one of the biggest obstacles for RCA, which is the high absorption.
Totally.
And shoot, we were getting absorptions, what, 8%?
I want to say even a little bit higher
9%?
than that, but yeah, it was
We
in
got
that realm.
And we have.
And what's your standard absorption on regular course? It's
Well,
like 2 or 3, isn't it? At most.
Well, 1 to 3, and then I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who had said that he was getting absorptions on aggregate in Texas as high as 6 or 7%.
No.
David, does that sound?
Would that be like a
bullshit, or-
limestone or something? Like a really porous? Could you get that on limestone?
He says so, it must be so. I mean, it seems a little high, but
I'm just
Switzerland
cynical.
over
I don't
there.
believe anybody. Yeah, but assuming for a second that it is, the highest that you can get for natural aggregate is 6 to 7%. With
Which seems incredibly high. That's not the norm.
that's not the norm. But with RCA, you're still getting in that realm, that 7 to 10%.
Right.
And what we did with your research was try to use that as an opportunity. That's one
Right.
thing that we do in our company. We always try to find a way to turn an obstacle into an opportunity. With
Yep.
that absorption, we wanted to treat it as if it was expanded shale or
Right.
lightweight aggregate.
Right.
Where if you've never used expanded shale or lightweight aggregate in your ready mix operation, what you normally do is you auger the aggregate once you get it with water. A certain percentage of its ability to absorb that water by its own mass, and then you let it sit in a pile for 24 hours, and then you use it in your
Right.
concrete. And the impetus of that is the water that's in the shale, the expanded shale, will contribute to an internal curing. And if my memory serves me correctly, which more often times it doesn't, but if my memory serves me correctly, Professor Jason Weiss, who is now, I think, the civil engineering department head at Oregon State
Yep.
University,
Yes.
did a slew of work with, or is it a sluice of work, David?
Slew. Why sluice?
could be sluice in this case.
Could be sluice
Oh,
in
plural?
No,
Oh.
sluice in the sluice gates and dams.
Oh, pardon.
And David told me a wonderful story about that I don't think I'm allowed to share, but I learned about sluice. Anyway,
Share later.
So Jason Weiss, when he was still at Purdue, took a sabbatical with, I believe it was NIST in Gaithersburg, Maryland. He did some fantastic work on the internal curing capabilities of lightweight or expanded shale. And I believe the Denver Water Board has done a lot of work with that too.
Oh, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, right, David? In their tanks, I think that was a few
They
years
used
back.
internal curing for,
Okay.
there was used a lightweight aggregate.
Yep, and there's a paper published on it through ACI Materials Journal, but it doesn't have a lot of the mixes. It just has the results, which is a little strange. But anyway, the point of all this was, what we did in your research is we took that 9% absorption and turned it into an opportunity by pre-soaking the aggregate with different types of colloidal silica. Now, we did a pre-soak with just straight water. When we say pre-soak, what we simulated was, normally in your ready mix operation, you have a certain amount of your aggregate going in first, and with a certain amount of water, and that's part of your automated system, and it mixes up, and then all the other materials go in. What we're suggesting is using that same process, except for the fact that you have all your coarse recycled concrete aggregate come into the central plant mixer
Right.
first, or into your drum first, and then you're going to mix in a certain amount of your batch water as well as your colloidal silica for
Right.
about 30 to 60 seconds to get that pre-soak. And the idea is that you are going to adsorb and absorb
Mm-hmm.
colloidal silica into the surface and subsurface of your aggregate to almost get that internal curing effect, except for the fact that you're also going to get that, that increase of the strength at the interfacial zone because of the pozzolanic
Right.
reaction and the calcium silicate hydrate seeding that you're
Right,
getting
seeding sites in there.
from the colloidal silica.
Sure. The other thing is too, just with a couple more notes with that pre-soak, that 24-hour business is just not realistic for a ready mix plant, they can't, mix it and then dump it and let it sit around for
They
24
might not have
hours.
the real estate to do that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just who's got the time?
Who's
like
got
the
the
time and the hassle. The other thing is too, I think doing that pre-soak right before, you're able to keep that water kind of on the surface. That way you're helping with your fresh property. So it's not going to be pulling water out of the mix. And that's one of the things with that high absorption. If you're not doing the pre-soak, it's going to pull water out of the hydrated cement matrix. So you're just going to get this kind of flaking. You're not going to have the bonding.
Well, I think also
it's going to just run into a lot of problems.
I think also, that batch water is also intended for water of, what the hell is it called? Water of convenience.
Oh, okay.
So your mix is going to tighten up, then you're
Sure.
going to have people pissing it up on the
Right.
job site or throwing more admixture in there.
Well, and then if they're using an aggregate they've never used before, they're going to be like, oh, this isn't going to work. It's an easy target to blame it on. So you just have to know what's going right. Anyways, you've got to take advantage of those things, like we said.
I've heard those voices on the job site,
Yeah, I'm
so
sure
that's
you're
why I'm laughing.
probably not mine. But anyways.
So, just for the sake of time, we've actually gone over time here for our coffee talk, but we actually have published work on this in our Medium page, and we're going to be adding some more information. And if you ever have any questions on recycled concrete aggregate, the good side, the bad side, there's some amazing people out there.
And a lot of work's been done.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So Japan to New Jersey, Muhammad Magoob and NJIT. What if it rains a lot and all the aggregate is soaked with rainwater? How will the silica pre-soak would work? Just wondering. Gosh, that's a great question.
Because then you've got your absorption of all that stuff, possibly acid rain, depending on where you're at.
No. I wouldn't say that. I would just say that. Let's just assume for a second
Right.
you're
Just regular
saturated.
rain. Okay.
You got a saturated, oversaturated surface.
Do you let it dry off?
No, you're gonna tell the folks, hey, you can't get your trucks today because our dryer's broken, or we can't freaking spread your aggregate out to dry it out. I don't know, man. That's a good question. That's a
Maybe
good
you
question.
would just, instead of doing as much batch water, you would do significantly less, like just enough to be able to disperse that colloidal silica, though.
No, the question is, if you have your aggregate sitting in the rain and it becomes saturated,
Right.
how will the colloidal silica soak into a saturated rock? How do you fill a glass that is already full?
Yeah, but there's
That's
such a
the way.
small. There's such a small amount, though. Maybe you still just stuff the colloidal silica in and do your mix,
Maybe.
and the rainwater helps disperse it.
Man, it would be awesome if
Theoretically.
somebody was still going to school for their baccalaureate, and if they could do another research project. High five.
Are you trying to get smacked already this morning? It's early.
All right, so no, so that's the question. So Adam asked this question. What if it rains a lot and your aggregate gets oversaturated, that it gets past that saturated
sure.
surface dry, or just the, maybe the fact that it's not even dry anymore and you can't get the colloidal silica in there, because the question is the colloidal silica going to displace the water? And man, I don't know.
Could you just
I don't think so. I don't
maybe
know.
you could put the colloidal silica in the mix still, and then you would hope that some of it would go, because it's still porous. That's the thing. It's still porous. You're still going to get some of that back and forth.
Sure, but you're definitely not going to get the same amount. My father, years and years ago, we're sitting at the table, at the breakfast table as a kid, and he had a horrible headache. Horrible. Was working a late night, and he took some Advil. And I remember all of us as kids are sitting at the table, and he just looks up, tilts his head. It's like a puppy, And he asks the question, how does the Advil know to go to my head? Or it was Tylenol.
Right.
How does the Tylenol know to go to my
Doesn't.
head? And it doesn't.
It goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere. So I think that might be happening with the colloidal silica when we still do that pre-soak, even though we're saturated, where there's a certain change in alkalinity which is going to force the electrical double layer of the colloidal silica to reduce, and then it eventually wants to stick to something.
That's my point. And still, the aggregate is porous. So if you put the colloidal silica in your mix still, like you normally would, Because we're just changing when we're putting in the colloidal silica.
You gotta
Normally
do
we
it.
put it at the end.
So why don't you do this, Adam? We're gonna put an action plan together for Whitney's baccalaureate. We could do it this summer. What the heck? What else are we gonna be doing in North Dakota? Taking classes?
I don't even...
You know how to
Yes,
answer?
yes. I'm
So
sure
Adam-
we will be doing some
Adam,
version of this.
Whitney is gonna come up with an action plan over the next couple days. We'll figure out where to get some recycled concrete aggregate, and we'll get back with you on this and possibly have another discussion. We've got to head out. It's 5 minutes over the time that we are allotted. Adam, thank you very much.
He's
I'm
in trouble
now.
right now.
So thank you very much for hanging out. Remember, if you got any questions, any concrete concerns, or you just want to talk about concrete, we're the concrete experts.
That's
Go
right.
concrete, beat asphalt.
Have a great day, folks.